Hello, my name is Dan and Hattie Education Founder. So welcome to our event. Here I'm very delighted to introduce my friend, Miss Tasha, my friend for 35 years.
Wow,
35 years, okay? I'm more like your mom, your parents' kid, and you are more like my parents' kid. Okay, so
that's
here you go.
true.
Yeah, here you go, Miss Tasha. Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, hi everyone. So my name is Tasha, and I am a school librarian. I started out in corporate libraries, meaning I did research. Fun fact, my first job was for a firm where Steve Jobs was our client just when he came back to Apple and started Pixar, and he got rid of all his librarians. So I learned to search because Steve Jobs had questions that I had to answer. And I've had a really long path, and along the way, I've had the joy of um, learning to edit Wikipedia. And I'm going to talk to you a bit about why it's interesting to me and why I do it. And we're going to look at some basic setups that you can do so you can start editing. I wonder if it's okay for me to ask you to just put in chat, what made you come today? Did your parents make you do it? Do you like using Wikipedia? Why are you here? I'm curious if anyone would share in chat. You can share publicly or with me privately if you wish.
Yeah, very good.
We're going to see. I'll give you a second because I understand. You probably weren't expecting to answer questions immediately.
Yeah. So yeah, the whole discussion is actually, Tasha, we've been chatting and we
Hmm.
have a student, one student. I think he's here today. And so I mentioned that to him and he's very interested. So yeah,
Mhm.
and now we're inviting more students to join us. So very good.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful. Okay, well, I will show you then what makes me interested. So I'm going to actually screen share mostly because we'll be looking at real examples, real life examples, but also because, hold on, as you know with Zoom, there are boxes all over everything. So we will come back to this in a moment. Uh, we're going to talk a little bit. We chose to name this Making Wikipedia Look More Like Your World. And I'm going to show you why that is something that's important to me. So play along with me for a second. And I'd like you to see what your imagination conjures. So I just want you to picture in your mind. Um, let's start with, can you picture a Utah state senator? I'm wondering who you picture. For me, I helped write the Wikipedia page for the first Tongan American to be elected to office in the United States. This is Phil Weepy. I worked on his page. I'm curious what you picture when you think about a mining executive. This is Samantha Andreas. She is Papua New Guinean and is the executive for OK Teddy Mining, also in Papua New Guinea. I'd never heard of her till I wrote her Wikipedia page. If you think a New York-born modernist architect, I have just been learning about Poigum Lee, who was born in 1900 and so was an architect from the 1920s through, I believe, the 1960s. We're going to see a little more about him. And he was famous for merging traditional Chinese and modernist European American architecture, which he built both in the US and in China. And lastly, an astrobiologist. That's someone who studies what it might look like if we found life on other planets. And this is Dr. Kendall Lynch. She is the person whose research informed where the most recent Mars rover landed, because she was, not to put too fine a point on it, able to identify fossilized microbe poop, really, and figure out where it showed up in rock structures that are in the Great Salt Lakes. They're analogous to Mars. And so now we have an idea of what it might look like if we saw signs of life in certain rock formations on Mars because of her work. Now, she didn't have a Wikipedia page. Most of these people did not until I wrote them. Um, and it was very interesting. We'll come back to the other, but this is the traffic for a period of time right after I wrote the page. And when I looked at the traffic, I was very curious about this spike here, which it turned out was when Neil deGrasse Tyson, the famous astronomer, talked about her on his podcast. And people came to Wikipedia to look for her and only found her because I had written that page. And that was a pretty cool thing to have happen. Now, these examples I gave you, I chose because the way I was raised in the United States in the 1970s and 80s, all of those roles I mentioned for me were default, well, white men. And it's been really interesting to me to get into Wikipedia and and add more diverse faces and identities. And that's why we call this making Wikipedia look more like your world, because Wikipedia doesn't reflect the entirety of the culture around us. Wikipedia first discovered this in 2014 when there was a study that discovered that just over 15% of all the English Wikipedia's biographies were about women. And since 2014, there has been a concerted effort, like a really widespread effort to up that number. And in working really, really hard, by 10 years after that discovery, they managed, well, we, because I'm part of this group, managed to break 20% of the biographies are now about women. This, of course, does not reflect the actual breakdown of who is in our world, but it does reflect who is editing and who and what they value. So, for example, there have been many times when female scientists have had their pages taken down from Wikipedia because editors are like, well, I've never heard of her, so clearly she's not important. And some of the guidelines for Wikipedia writing, which are intended to help Wikipedia be higher quality, actually result in being a real gatekeeper and making a roadblock for who is covered and what topics get covered. So it was almost a decade after the study about women that a group of scholars also looked at Wikipedia asking questions about race and ethnicity and whether that gap also exists. Overall, I find that I like writing about people of various types of minoritized identities. That's what's fun for me. It's interesting. I learn my imagination of who can be what moves against the way I was raised. But more importantly, when these people are referred to out in the world, they are findable on Wikipedia because I helped put them there. And in a very real way, Wikipedia is kind of an unofficial arbiter of truth, right? It's the de facto source of what is real for a lot of people in our society. ChatGPT and other generative AI are, of course, growing in that role, but Wikipedia still plays a very large part of that, including feeding a lot of these AI systems. And so who and what is in Wikipedia really changes how reality is perceived around the world. So I like editing to help Wikipedia reflect more accurately the world around me. That's my interest. So it is very possible that many of you have heard or been told that Wikipedia is not a reliable source. This is a topic of large debate, and it has given rise to rules and guidelines decided by the Wikipedia community collaboratively, in order to figure out what the limit should be to help raise the quality of pages. And actually, even way back in like 2014, there were studies comparing Wikipedia to, say, Encyclopedia Britannica, which is a very long-standing, very well-respected print encyclopedia, and finding they really had about the same error rate. And in point of fact, Wikipedia is much more agile and able to be updated much more quickly. So, for example, back when the National Geographic Bee was in existence and running every year, the kids I know who went to nationals all depended on Wikipedia to give them up-to-date information about countries instead of information that was quite old. So there's actually a lot that Wikipedia has to offer. Happy to talk more about that if you want to hear more later about why I think it's high quality and really good work. I would say that it kind of depends. In popular fields where there are a lot of eyes on things, they mistakes will get corrected very quickly. And in fact, I started going through anti-vandalism training, and usually within seconds, things get fixed on many, many pages that are a problem. So that actually speaks to potentially the quality of the information, although we're going to look at some examples that I think are reasons why you might also want to consider editing. So there are two major requirements for an article. One is verifiability. What that really means is Wikipedia, to be honest, more than being truthful, is verifiable. What that means is you can find there are sources that give the information that Wikipedia shares. It can point to where the information came from. So if, I don't know, the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and Fox News and NBC all reported on something and gave the same piece of information or related pieces of information, that would be considered acceptable content for Wikipedia because you can point to sources, it is verifiable. The other is notability, which means basically that something has to be worthy of being in an encyclopedia. And this is because a long time ago, one of the things that gave Wikipedia a bad name was the idea that anyone could edit it, and that really people were going in and like writing pages about their companies, writing pages about themselves. There's now actually a rule against what's called a conflict of interest. So for example, I can't go in and write an article about the school where I work because that would be considered self-promotion, essentially. And so to prove that something is notable or deserves to be in an encyclopedia, the standard that's chosen is that you've got multiple sources and they're considered pretty high quality. And so the idea is if someone gets press, if something gets press, if there's an idea or an event that people are writing about, that signifies its notability. Now, this can be challenging because of inherent bias in source material. So, for example, you are not allowed to use primary sources for the most part. So that means like I can't use someone's autobiography as a source to write their Wikipedia page because it's their version of events and it's considered to have like essentially not been fact checked, let's say. what that means is a lot of editors will disapprove of interviews with someone, so also considered to be their own narrative about themselves and not have been fact-checked and be verifiable by third party and not invested sources. Let's call it that. The idea is like even I took a course from Wikipedia during COVID where I was writing about COVID, and they said it is worse, it is less good to use a scholarly paper on COVID, and it is better to use a newspaper article that someone wrote reporting on the study that was done about COVID. The idea is that that journalist should theoretically have checked and thought about whether this was really a valid study before they wrote it. I would argue that most scientific reporting is not very good, and I'm not a huge fan of that, but that's the rule. Similarly, my Wikipedia editing group and I have noticed that when journalists talk to and write articles about people, they are more likely with a female identifying person, for example, to do an interview and just post it as an interview. Whereas for a male, they are more likely to take that interview and write it into an article that is actually an acceptable source for Wikipedia. So there are all of these subtle biases that really inhibit people, frankly, who are other than white males from being central to, or from being written up by Wikipedia. And you can see the same thing. I'm not really a fan of saying that something is a girl thing or a boy thing, but you can see the same thing in comparisons. For example, the page on baseball cards in Wikipedia is extremely long and updated really frequently, whereas the page on friendship bracelets is short and touched and updated much less often. You can look at like shoot 'em up thriller action films that are considered more male will tend to have much more larger, longer, and more in-depth coverage than something that someone might call a chick flick. So there's a lot of evidence around gender that we're seeing really unequal covering of topics based on conceived gender alignment. And I would argue that, again, other identity markers such as race and ethnicity and so forth have the same problem, even though it hasn't been studied as deeply. And let me show you actually an example of that. So I was looking at actually the first time I did an online edit-a-thon, I invited some of my teacher friends, and we were trying out some strategies to see what it's like to edit in a community via Zoom and work on Wikipedia. And one of my teacher friends has a PhD in actually Southeast Asian American literature. So she decided to take a look at the Asian American literature page, and she looked at it and was really disappointed with it. She was very upset and thought it was terrible. And as we were looking at it, someone got the idea to look at the talk page, which is where people who edit or think about this page, Asian American literature, have discussions about the content and what might need to be added or changed. So one of the things that happens is that with a lot of pages, you get a box like this at the top of the talk page. And it's telling us that this article is rated stub class. Stub means it's very short. It's missing a lot of the attributes that you would want in a good article. There are also these groups called wiki projects. So before I showed you a page from Wiki Project Women in Red, that is a group of Wikipedians who cares about adding women. to the narrative in Wikipedia. Wiki project literature is people who care about literature. So interestingly, the literature wiki project, so people who care about literature, decided that a page on Asian American literature was of low importance. It wasn't that important. It's not a high priority for them. If it's not that good, that's fine. They can take it or leave it. But if you look, I tried comparing it to other pages, such as Russian literature, which the literature group thought was top importance. Similarly, Western literature, which they define as also European literature, also top importance. So it's really interesting, and you can see that just in what people think it's worth focusing on, some topics are more privileged than other topics. I would definitely question whether Asian American literature is of less importance on English language Wikipedia than Russian literature, which is literally from a different country. And one of the implications then is it doesn't get a lot of content. And people don't work on it as much as other pages. So that is an example of how we see a type of bias that people maybe aren't conscious of, an unconscious bias that is impacting what we see in Wikipedia. And this is a place where we can create a difference and through our editing. Now, the other thing I'll point out here is that under notability, not only do you need to have multiple sources, but also there's this idea that Wikipedia pages never present an opinion and they're not argumentative writing. And that is actually not true. There is one single driving argument behind every page, and that is that this page, this topic, belongs in an encyclopedia. And whether a page survives will depend essentially on these two things. Is the information in it verified through having sources, having citations, and does it prove notability? And I'll show you actually an interesting example of that. So let me show here. Bisa Butler is a quilter, and she's really innovative. And her work has been groundbreaking and has opened up a whole new genre of quilting. So each of these quilts are made of thousands and thousands of pieces. Her images are either taken from iconic photographs of historical African American communities, or sometimes from photographs where we actually don't know, we've lost who it's a photograph of. And this, Harriet Tubman, is an example of one of her quilts. So my students, I teach my students to write and edit in Wikipedia, and we work in a different part of Wikipedia called Simple English Wikipedia, because I do it with students who are younger and they're learning subject, verb, object, sentence structure in class, and that's what you're supposed to use for Simple English Wikipedia. And one of my students wrote a page on Bisa Butler, and someone tried to have it deleted, and his argument was, all she does is make quilts. She's not important. And actually, I looked at her regular English Wikipedia page, and it also, I don't think she should have a page there either. I just don't think she's that important. And I went and looked at her Wikipedia page, and we'll pull it up here. And it says there are issues here, so I'll probably come back and see if I can fix some of this stuff. But basically, this opening paragraph, which is called a lead, is a summary of the high points of the topic of the page. And it's basically where you construct your argument that this person is notable, or this person or topic, event, whatever is notable and should be in Wikipedia. And there was this beautiful argument when I came and looked at it about the impact her work has on the trajectory of Black American art. And I realized that the editor who did not like this page and thought it should be taken down, that was not going to be a compelling argument to him. So I moved that beautiful writing to another part of the page and instead just basically listed every famous place that she has quilts. So the fact that that Harriet Tubman quilt was for the Smithsonian Museum, that she's had really large art exhibits at prestigious museums, and that she's quilted 2 covers for Time Magazine Person of the Year. Time Magazine might not be something that you're familiar with, but it was very central to certain swaths of US culture, particularly the kinds of people who edit Wikipedia when they were kids. So they would all know it and kind of honor Time Magazine as a source, and also just that her quilt was super expensive. Um, and moving from an argument about the impact of her work on art and visibility of Black Americans to instead just listing this list of prestigious names that people would know, like Epcot Center, made the difference in that other editor's feeling about this page. She's like, oh, okay, now I see that she's clearly notable. So really what you're trying to do is build notability. So I know, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I know there's going to be Q&A at the end, but I'm curious if anyone has any questions they want to ask, because that was kind of a lot of content and I was jumping around.
And
I'm just giving you a moment. If anyone has any questions, you can put it in chat.
so maybe Tasha, I can share the 2 programs I was going to share. Sounds good?
Yes,
Yeah,
please,
so
go ahead.
I'll insert it. Yeah, okay. Sounds
I'm so sorry. I was wondering. Yes, please, go ahead.
No, sorry at all. It's good. I love it. I love it. I'm learning so much and I love it. I wish I have time I can work with you.
I know, I wish you had time to, but I understand.
There are a few names are popping up and I want to dig into their Wikipedia
Okay,
now.
yeah, once you start looking, that's
Yeah,
an amazing thing. I want you to be able to talk about programs, but once you start looking, it's amazing what isn't there that you wish was there. So please continue.
exactly. Yeah. So anyway, okay. So you guys know that I'm founder of Hattie Education, and we came up with this beautiful AI site. Everybody's AI, and you can log in and chat with me. I do a lot of Cal Berkeley parents support, so parents can ask questions here. We have academic tutoring. We have a lot of research program. We have summer program. Right now, I'm actually sitting in the dorm at UC Berkeley. Okay, this one happens to be pretty big, but there are small ones, and also we support with SAT. Main thing is we have supporting college counselor. I didn't put it here, say chat with counselor. People were confused which counselor I'm chatting. So I just made a, it's not like I'm having a big ego. Like, okay, chat with me first, okay? So we have quite a few counselors, okay? So I'm gonna go to the main website and there are 2 of them. Okay, so I'm gonna show you. One is where you can see, that's where if you look at the AI, you can see what we offer if you go into the counseling or courses. So I'm going to go to the course. That's a PC site. The one I show is mobile, all same content, different rendering. Okay. So today there are 2 programs I was going to share. One is hybrid in person and also online, taught by Coach Liam. It's very interesting. It's called elementary discrete math is not for elementary students. Discrete math is very difficult class at UC Berkeley and all colleges for computer science, math, engineering, and and it's not really covered in Common Core K-12 education. So students are gonna ask me like, okay, what's the prerequisite? Linear algebra, pre-calculus, A, B, B, C. No, this is different. So that's why when I asked Coach Liam to teach a class, he said UC Berkeley, he will be going to pursue PhD in theoretic math, but he also has a CS undergraduate with computer science. And he said he want to teach the basics, key things of discrete math. Very interesting. There's YouTube there, and then there's also introduction and what he's going to teach. The key thing it's about, I'm going to show you here, it's about here. It's a diagnostics. So students, the minimum grade is writing sevens. That's the minimum, cannot be lower. We cannot take younger kids. It's a maturity issue. But everybody else is treated same. You're gonna pass the test. It's very interesting. Go take a look at it. So I'm here in the summer program. I can tell you we have students as young as ninth grader and as senior as junior of college, 6-year difference, and they're all collaborating. How are they admitted? Because they pass a test. So a lot of our programs is merit-based, you pass the test, it's easier. So parents doesn't have to ask us a lot of questions, okay? So this is the key. And the schedule is starting end of August. If you're in Bay Area, you want to come for 3 hours, we're gonna have some fun in person. And Coach Liam loves using whiteboard. It's every Sunday between 1:30 to 4:30. 16 sessions. Online, you can log in as well. Okay, no problem. We're making sure online is also supported. There will be daily quiz. There will be midterm. There will be final. It's not for competition. It's quiz. It's checking what you have learned, and it's one of the learning method. If you test it, kids learn faster. Okay, that's one thing. The second thing actually is starting literally next week, and it's by Professor Zhang and MIT. It's a research program with very, very detailed research, all the FAQs, reading list, everything's here. So the program seems very short, but it's produce a research in bioengineering and AI, protein design. However, the sessions only in August, 15 sessions, but Professor Zhang will support your student for 1 year, unlimited one-on-one support to help your students publish a nice paper, okay? There's a minimum age is 16. That's it, minimum age and maturity. So, and if you're interested, I will put the link there. And there's also application form. Everything's included in the link. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Sorry, it take longer than 5 minutes. So Tasha, the floor is yours.
Well, so it was interesting because while you were doing that, I was looking and whoops, hold on. I'm going to share my screen again. I took a look at what pages Wikipedia has on discrete mathematics.
Yeah.
I see there are some errors here, but there are a lot.
Mhm,
And they also have a category on discrete mathematics
mhm.
because I know that you all are thinking about college. And so I actually love Dan that we spoke about this in the middle, although I'm sorry.
That's fine.
It gives me a chance to say, I teach at a high school that sends 100% of its students to four-year colleges, often very well-known colleges. And so I'm familiar with what this process is like in thinking about college. And one of the things that I think is really important is actually being able to speak about topics that interest you and know that you understand it and are conveying it really well. So although I personally like to edit Wikipedia for the reasons that I was talking about before, It's also a place where you can practice and improve and demonstrate your ability to talk about topics that you might be thinking about that interest you for college. It's fairly low stakes because you can proofread, you can make small edits, you can clarify. Again, you get a chance to practice expressing your ideas and then see how other people come back and change it to make them clearer. And all of that can help you so that if you find yourself face to face with a professor having a conversation about work that interests you, you'll actually be able to, um, you'll actually kind of know that you know your stuff, right? There's the saying that if you can teach something, such as writing about it in Wikipedia for other people to learn from, that's a really good way to solidify your own learning. So that's another way to think about this activity. So that's just my little plug for ways that you could study discrete math, for example, and then use this process of editing to help solidify your learning and be able to talk to others about it. Um, I believe that you may have already gotten this link, but we'll make sure you get it again. Wikipedia has put together some fairly basic, short online uh, modules to help you learn about how to edit Wikipedia. So I'm going to show you some basics, but you can kind of work your way through these. I think each of them take like 10 minutes, so it's pretty simple. And by the time you're done, you've got a lot of knowledge. Um, I personally started trying reading Wikipedia pages about Wikipedia to learn how to edit and got completely overwhelmed. This is a much better way to approach learning, and then you can build on that learning by doing and reading pages on informational pages on Wikipedia about how Wikipedia works. But I actually wanted to go back to this architect that I referred to earlier. Let's find him here. This gentleman, who was, as I said, primarily mid-century modernist architect who used traditional Chinese, brought traditional Chinese architectural features into modernist architecture and was very innovative in that way. I noticed when I looked on his page that there's kind of a lot of information missing about him. This page is also a stub. You'll notice that it's not very many words. And when I looked, the sources were like, okay, they're fine. But I did find that the American Association of Architects wrote a long piece about him, and that would be considered like a really high quality source. Interestingly, it's where I learned that he designed this building. And I think we should take a second and look at this page to see another example of how the sources someone uses leave room for improvement and understanding of a topic. And so this building is the New York headquarters for this merchants association, which started out as a tong. And the thing about this page, as I read it, also a stub, you see it's very short. It is all about how this organization is basically a criminal organization. When you look at the references, first of all, it only used one source. It really doesn't have any footnotes. It just has one here at the end. And it's definitely giving a specific perspective. So I just took the name of the tong and I searched and actually found quite a few cities around the United States have historical associations or universities that are writing about it. The National Park Service wrote about it, which has traditionally been a really great source of information about a more diverse view and history of the United States. This is, as I said, the Institute of American Architects. No, this is from the Museum of Chinese in America that also did a profile of him, of the architect. But what I found as I read these other pages is, as I suspected, the Chinese Merchants Association did so much social good. It was a benevolent society, right? So it was founded by people who had come to the United States, and what they wanted to do was support and make life good for other people who were coming to the United States from their hometown often, or their home region. This is something that a lot of different groups that have migrated to the United States have done. And so when you start reading about it, you see they're providing legal services, funerary services, all kinds of different really positive services that the people who ran it were very high profile and well known in their communities, and that there was definitely this dark underbelly. But basically, again, there's this like cultural orientalizing of tongues in the United States. And like the traditional narrative in the US is that they're gangs. And they clearly aren't kind of aware of the broader purpose they serve and cultural elements that came from China to the United States. Also, I happen to notice that they have a picture of that architect's building, but they haven't mentioned him anywhere on this page. So there are a couple of things that I can do. One is I can vastly improve this article by reading these sources I pulled up, dcpreservation.org, Case Western Reserve University, Encyclopedia of Cleveland History, and National Park Service are all sources that are going to be they were like even the first results on Google or close to it on the first page, and they're going to be very well liked generally by Wikipedia editors. So they're going to have that kind of credibility with a wide variety of editors and bring a larger range of perspectives about what this organization was up to beyond just it was a gang and it fought with other gangs and it still fights with other gangs. So I can read and pull things, but what I actually want to do first is I want to take our architect who designed this building and I want to add him to the caption of this image. Because one thing that happens is Wikipedia articles are what's called orphaned. It means they don't have other pages linking into them. It happens that our architect does have lots of other pages that link to his page, but the more pages that link in, the more discoverable something is. So for example, when I wrote the page on Kendall Lynch, who is that astrobiologist who helped influence the Mars rover, I wanted her to be findable by people who cared about Mars in general and might not generally find their way to her. And so I went to the Mars rover page, added a short sentence that referenced her, and then linked back to that page. So I thought we could do that here. I'm going to make it really simple, and it's not going to be super fantastically well done I'll come back and fix it later. It's certainly going to stand out of it. But I want to show you how this works. So I'm actually seeing that we're about to go to question. We should stop for Q&A, but let me just very quickly show you what I could do. For example, up here is edit, and you'll get instructions on this in the modules that we have the link for you. But all I need to do is click edit and then type something like the New York headquarters. Whoops. So all I need is to do this. I'm going to hit period. I'm not going to put in a citation because I want time for Q&A, but Wikipedia makes it very easy. I just put my cursor at the end, click Cite, and then I can put in I have different ways I can put in my citation. Like if it's from a website, it just gives me a form that I fill in, and it will auto format the citation. I'm going to come back and do that later. The last thing I do is click this blue up in the upper left-hand corner, publish changes button. And sorry, my spelling isn't great. I'll fix it later. Just tell them what you did, hit publish, and now basically anyone in the world who looks will see this sentence. So it's very, very easy. It really needs a citation or it will get taken out quickly. I'll do that after we're done here. But it's simple. You can practice. You can practice just adding something, always with a citation. And the truth of the matter is that actually thousands of people will see and use your changes really soon. So I don't know. I find it gratifying. That basically, I hope that was a decent introduction. Again, we're going to share with you where you can find instructions, and you can always send questions through Ms. Dendan, and she will send them along to me. But do you have any questions now?
So we will send out Ms. Tasha's instruction. Tasha, you can just email me a simple instruction, or I don't know whether the PTT is available. If not, that's fine. But we
Yeah, I will send it.
yeah, the recording will be available. Everybody registered through our registration link, and we'll just send it out. And sounds like the students can follow your instruction and training material, and that you also give tips of how they make account. It has to be anonymous. And
Yes. Sorry, I should speak to that quickly.
Mm.
So if you edit without being logged in, then it records the IP address of where you're editing. So your house or your school, and that just makes you vulnerable to hackers. So that isn't great. The other thing is you will notice if you look at my page that my username, ought to be Otters, has nothing that would connect me to it. I strongly prefer highly anonymous. I used to use my initials and just be like TBM librarian. And I decided that was too close to who I am. Wikipedia is amazing. And sometimes people have feelings about things, and not all of them are socially adept. So it's just better to be logged in and have your own anonymous name that is not the same as like your Instagram handle or something. Yeah, so please continue.
Yeah. So I think, students are in high school, they are not aware of like how they report volunteer hours, right? So every time parents ask me like, okay, how can you give me a proof 150 hours? It's not really, it's all self-reporting. So I would tell all the college kids, going to college, this year or next year, you're gonna have in common app and you see it's self-reporting. And the US is supposed to be a credit system and people trust you. So I wouldn't worry, say, hey, Wikipedia doesn't come give you a nice certificate. You don't need a certificate saying from Wikipedia 300 hours or from, Miss Tasha or from Hattie. Okay, no. And however, and it's also anonymous, but you can talk about it and what you have contributed. And every student is being very honest. How much, and the more you contribute, the more you can talk about it. And that's where our college counselor can help you shape your story and shape your voice. Yeah. So Miss Tasha works in a school. Miss Tasha cannot be leading your project, hand holding you. Like, okay, so I'm here, see a student name, say Gianna or William, like, okay, you do this. You guys gonna be a little bit independent and following the instruction. Today it's an information session to how to undertake this project. Only if you're interested in research, you're interested in what the topics Miss Tasha talk about, but maybe you can be interested in completely something else that maybe space or maybe biodiversity of the food or maybe, right? There's many things you'd be interested, and then you research who's behind it, and then you said, okay, that information is really lacking, and here you go. I'm gonna do some research. I'm gonna add on to it, right, Miss Tasha, right?
Absolutely. And I think again, if there's a subject you love and want to highlight on your application, like I know that some of my students will come to me and they'll be like, I'm in ninth grade and I really want to be doing medical research, but no lab will let me in because I'm a ninth grader. But what you can do is you can learn and go and edit, and you can always say something like 150 hours editing Wikipedia in topics of, I'm going to use discrete math, related to discrete math under the username ought to be otters. Then they can go and look and see it.
Yeah.
Like, don't steal someone's username, but you can use your own username and you can make it clear that you're learning in that area. And there is no one to tell you you can't unless you behave in ways that are against the code of ethics of Wikipedia, like copyright infringement, plagiarizing, bullying other people. I don't know, but you're not going to do any of that, so it won't be a problem.
Yeah. So the skills you mentioned, Miss Tasha, like a plagiarism, right? So it's
Mhm.
nobody gonna copy, but still sometimes we do a copy by mistake, right? It's very, likely. So it happens, right? So I think it's a very good process. You learn it along the way, and where we both, Miss Tasha and I both went to graduate school. And I'm mentioning about graduate school is not about the sake of graduate school, is that we are taught and we learn to do much more in-depth research. And
Mhm.
so actually the skills you're learning in high school going to lead to your undergraduate research and graduate research, even you're in work, right? Right now, I'm not trying to talk about the very popular, the researchers, AI research being being pursued by big companies, but research, right? So
Yeah.
that I'm talking about at work, you also need require research skills as well. So this is a fundamental skills.
I believe strongly it's a fundamental skill. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up. And you also made me think of something which just flew out. Oh, right. And you should know that, again, not everyone on Wikipedia is as socially adept as we'd like, but there's a theory called don't bite the newbie. It's a rule. It means if someone's new to Wikipedia, don't just go be mean to them. And so what will happen is your username, you'll have your own talk page. And if you did by mistake plagiarize, someone would come to your user page and say like, hey, I just want you to know I got rid of your edit because I noticed it was the same words as this other. So please don't do that in the future. And then you'll be like, oh, I'm not going to, and so it's actually, in some ways, it's a really safe place to experiment and learn.
Yeah.
And to make sure that you're writing in a way that's comprehensible. And I know there's ChatGPT now. I noticed they actually added a unit on using generative AI to write Wikipedia pages. As a researcher, I uh, like to be very careful about which generative AI I use because also as a former Googler, I will say that the Google results generative AI is horrible. Um, Recently, I was trying to learn about the Taiping Princess from the Tang Dynasty, and it told me that the Taiping Princess led the Taiping Rebellion in 1850. And I can see how an AI got confused about that, but it wasn't right. Anyway, so Wikipedia has put together a unit to help you think about using generative AI, but it is a good place to learn how to write in ways that people can understand and follow.
Yeah, very good. Okay. Yeah, very good. I can't summarize more. There's just so many skills.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would love to summarize more. I know we're running a little bit out of time, but Miss Tasha mentioned so many skills like notability and then also, yeah, and also like trying to take a look at whether that's, it's what's called what the word of stub, like,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all at the end. It's all critical thinking. Some
Mhm.
is being represented, maybe some are overrepresented compared to the others, and also you bring some fairness to the community, right? To bring the visibility to the underrepresented groups. So there are a lot of characters that honestly, we are not just like okay, doing this for the college, but this is the
Yeah.
characters being a successful student and or being in the career veterans, all the skills that's all required, right, Miss Tasha?
Yes, and you know that the next day someone's going to be using your work. I mean, it's actually really interesting. We use this, there's a like a dashboard. So if a group of you is editing together, or if you're in a class,
Hmm.
you use this dashboard and it actually shows you how many people have read the pages that everyone in your class touched. And when you go and look at any of the dashboards for classes I've taken or given, it's all like tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of views. There are just like 8 of us in a Zoom room, and then a couple months later, 100,000 people have read what we've written. So it's nice to know that what you're doing is actually like it's a fast track to, again, building the world that other people see to better match the world that you live in and care about.
Yeah, this is great. Awesome.
All
Okay.
right.
Well, I think you guys have any questions? We too
Yeah,
been
sorry,
talking.
I can hang for a minute if I know I lost track of time and talked for too long. So if you have questions, ask. And you can also reach me through Ms. Dandan. But any
So I
questions?
usually shout 3 times. Any questions? I told you, Miss Tasha.
No, I know. I've been in classrooms on Zoom before.
So the second time, any questions? And no more. That's it.
All
Okay.
right.
So,
Well,
well, one more time, any questions? Okay, that's it. So we just ended on time. Thank you, Miss Tasha.
thank
And
you.
okay, thank you all the students. I know you guys want to maybe go have fun in the summer. Okay. And we'll put the recording up in YouTube and you guys can review. There are a lot of details. Very good. Okay. And I'll wait for a quick writing from you, like just one concise thing for the students. Is that okay?
Okay.
Yeah, we'll send it out. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for all your help. Thank you, Miss Tasha. Okay. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Mm.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gianna. Thank
Oh,
you. Yeah.
yeah, bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. Yeah. Good, good, good. Okay. So I think they're leaving.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you, Tasha.
You're
Yeah,
welcome. It's
I know.
wonderful to see your face.
I know. I know. I love it. Love it. Thank you. Maybe I'll
Forever.
try one day when after I retire.
Yeah, it's fine. So actually, this is part of my job. Like my job supports me, so I do a
Right.
lot of this during the workday because
I
all of
see.
it is professional development for me, and then I do it with our students. So,
Students. Yeah. Yeah. I think they had a great, they're very attentive. The 12 of them and 10 of them stayed. Yeah. Yeah. From
all
the,
right.
yeah.
I'm glad
Good.
to hear that. All right.
Okay.
So what kind of tell me, you just want a summary, like, I can annotate the slides I used, or what would you like?
Very simple. you have to create account, just copy paste that, and then the training kit,
Mm-hmm.
the training kit, and that's it, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't take it. Yeah, training kit. Okay, if we have that, that would be great. Yeah, I don't think we need anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not even mine. It's just out on the web, but I got it for you. Okay,
Yeah.
I will
Okay.
send it. Take
Okay.
care.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.